And it is a great pleasure to welcome to the Book Talk segment of the show today a man who has written a very interesting book. He's going to provide a lot of great information for not only people looking for work, but business owners as well. It's called the Seven Hidden Reasons Employees Leave, How to Recognize the Subtle Signs and Act Before It's Too Late. We're joined by Leigh Branham today from out in Kansas. And Leigh, thanks for joining us. How are you today?
I'm great, Doug. How are you?
I'm doing great. I had a great opportunity to read through the book, and I've always kind of enjoyed reading business books. I was a business major in college, and I think your book is one of those that you kind of lay it out in more layman's terms where the average person can understand business. A lot of them are often filled with jargon, but I think, and particularly the topic of this, too, there is a problem out there, not only people looking for work, but employers are trying to keep employees. So that's another issue, isn't it?
Well, that's true, although a lot of employees are sort of taking employee retention for granted with the economy being the way it's been for the last 4 years or so, and that's because, a lot of employees don't have much of a choice and are sort of staying because they don't have a better option with the economy being what it is. So we see a lot of employers sort of not that concerned about employee retention when, in fact, your best employees always have more options, because they're attractive to other employers as well.
I guess in a sense, even though it's always difficult to find new work, but if you're certain qualifications or you have the opportunity to do different things, even in this kind of economy, you can still move around, can't you? So employers want to keep you, right?
Well, that's exactly right. And, of course, there are still pockets of high turnover in certain occupations, in certain IT occupations, truck drivers. There are several occupations, skilled manufacturing, for example, where there's not enough supply for the number of jobs that they need. And a lot of people aren't aware of that. So concern for employee retention is always going to be there, no matter what the economy is.
Yeah, well, what types of industries? You mentioned a couple right there. I mean, it seems like the economy is getting a little better. I mean, despite the last few years and all that. But from what I've read, it looks like at least some industries are planning on hiring in the coming year. Is that true?
Well, that's what I see. The percentages of companies who say they're going to be adding to their staff in the coming year is up over what it was last year. So I think the economy is not going to be restored to what it was prior to the Great Recession in 1 year, but it's going to gradually improve. That's what the economists seem to be saying.
I guess we can go over a couple of the reasons why employees leave. Is it money alone that people leave their job? Is it dissatisfaction with the work environment? Or what would you say the number one reason is that people leave their job?
Well, Doug, you're getting right at the reason I wrote the book. I saw a survey several years ago that said that 90% of managers believe that pay is the number one reason employees leave. And I was curious to know who really is tracking the real reasons employees leave. And there was this consulting firm in California called the Saratoga Institute that was doing third-party exit interviewing. And they had been doing this for many years, and they had never stopped to analyze what employees were telling them. And, of course, they're telling a third party in a confidential way so that they know the company is not going to know exactly what they said or who said it. Mm-hmm. And so they have no reason to not tell the truth to the third party asking these questions. And the Saratoga Institute found, when I analyzed the data, they were willing to let me look at their data if I agreed to put their name on the front cover of the book. So what I saw in the data was 9 out of 10 employees were leaving for reasons other than pay, whereas 9 out of 10 managers believe that pay is the main reason. So I looked at that and I thought, man, that's an incredible disconnect, and that's what I'm trying to communicate in the book, that 10 to 12% of employees leave for pay. The other 88 to 90% are leaving because of senior leaders, lack of trust, of confidence in the senior leaders, not feeling valued in any number of ways, including pay, not feeling they have a sense of well-being or feeling burned out, lack of career growth, lack of manager coaching and feedback, unrealistic expectations, which accounts for short-term turnover, and just not feeling matched with the job itself, and not enjoying the job. So those are I call those hidden reasons in the title, and of course they're not hidden really, but they're hiding in plain sight if 9 out of 10 managers think pay is the number one reason.
You talk about in the book those exit interviews. I always wondered how effective they actually are, even though they tell you it's confidential. I think most people really don't give the full reason in those interviews. They think, still may get back to that job, or maybe get to another employer, may hurt them down the line. So I don't know how effective always those are, those interviews. Huh?
Well, I have a third-party exit interview on my own website, and people can go there. Anybody that's ever quit a job can actually fill out an exit interview for that. And one of the questions I ask is, did you tell the truth when you left your previous company? And only about 50% say yes to that. So that's what's happening. A lot of people are just saying, I'm not going to burn a bridge. I'm going to say what's easy to say, and what's easy to say is I get more pay in my next job. And, of course, most people who move on to a new job do get a pay increase. So it's not that it's not the truth. It's just not the real reason they started thinking about leaving in the first place, and therefore it's not the root cause.
You mentioned another reason, either poor management or inattentive management. I think a lot of people find that as a frustration. Middle management, where you're dealing with somebody that's not in charge of the whole place, maybe just your department, and you really can't get any feedback or get ahead maybe where you think you should be. So that's a huge problem, isn't it?
Yes, those are the kinds of things that are the real reasons employees leave. A lot of those things are within the control of the direct manager. But we find that the senior leaders exert more influence over the reasons employees leave than most people think. The conventional wisdom is people join companies and they leave managers. Well, that's partly true, and it's a big piece of the reason. But those managers in companies where senior leaders are not setting a good example, and they're not inspiring trust and confidence in the workplace, and they allow pay inequity to go on, the middle managers become disengaged in those organizations, and they are influenced by the senior leaders. And so it's really about the culture, and it's hard to separate the influence of senior leaders and the direct managers. But the two of those together control all of the 7 reasons I talked about in the book.
Does it have anything to do with the size of company too, or is this also in smaller companies where obviously there's fewer managers and maybe a smaller hierarchy, but is the same issue applied to smaller companies, people leaving?
Well, yes, it does, but we find that it's easier to keep people usually in a smaller company because they get more chance of being recognized. They generally have more impact where they are. They're generally listened to, and their ideas are valued more in smaller companies. So there are a lot of advantages that smaller companies have. Sometimes people leave smaller companies for larger companies, mostly because sometimes the larger companies can pay more and have better benefits, and sometimes they have more ways to grow and advance, up the ladder from a career standpoint. But in all the other ways, manager feedback and feeling valued, small companies do have an edge.
I guess it just comes down to, in the simplest form, is just effective communication, right? I mean, the employer has an obligation to tell their employees what they expect and leave an open door policy both ways, don't you think? And it's also up to the employee to go the other way, and it's up to them to speak up, right?
That's exactly right. And so many managers have their heads down, paying attention to budgets and, working their to-do list, that they're not paying attention to employees. And a lot of people are promoted into management because they're competent from a technical standpoint, but they're not really people. They don't really enjoy the communication piece, which is a huge part of being a manager. So companies need to train managers more. And, what I say in the book is more managers need to simply sit down with the employees that they want to keep and say, I really value your contributions here, and I want to make sure that you're happy and productive, and if there's anything I can do, before you ever start thinking about leaving, I hope you'll come to me and tell me what it is. Just to engage people in those kinds of discussions. Those are not difficult conversations to have. I call them stay interviews. Instead of doing exit interviews, we need to be doing more stay interviews.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I also think, and all this electronic communication, the chatting and the emails that are part of the office procedure, nothing wrong with that, but it seems to me maybe too much of that and too little of the face-to-face, or even on the phone.
That's exactly right. There are several companies that have policies where today we have no email day. Every communication you have, has to be done face-to-face or by telephone. Just to get people out of the rut, constantly communicating, in a non-face-to-face way.
Yeah, I think that's very important. You have to hear a voice now and then.
Right.
Rather than see it written.
Some companies have no meeting days, but we also need to have days where we're more face-to-face.
Yeah. Well, the name of the book is The 7 Hidden Reasons Employees Leave. We've been talking with Leigh Branham today. And Leigh, do you have a website that can get hold of the book or get hold of you if they like?
Yes, I do. It's Keeping the People, Inc. is the name of the company, but keepingthepeople.com is the website. And like I say, I do have a survey that anybody who's ever left a job can complete on the website, and I have a lot of other newsletters and articles, and people can subscribe to the newsletter on the website.
Great. Well, it's the kind of book I think people in the new year, if you're planning on leaving a job or you want to stay where you are, it's going to give you some good information to maybe stay where you are and make your job better instead of having to leave for another one. I think that's something people probably prefer to do than have to leave, right?
Well, that's right. When I coach people who are who are employed, I always tell them, try to make the best of the situation you have currently, and make sure you've exhausted every effort to do that before you consider leaving.
Yeah. Leigh Branham, appreciate you taking a few minutes today. Merry Christmas to you, and hopefully we'll talk to you again next time you have a book come out.
The same to you, Doug. Thanks so much for your interest.